All right. Thank you all for joining me this evening. As Amelia said, my name is Juliet. I'm the Community Animal Training Manager for San Diego Humane Society. Our topic for tonight is Cooperative Care 101, and I am thrilled to have you all here. This is a topic I am super passionate about, and hopefully you'll see why and start developing some of that passion on your own as well after this presentation. So what is cooperative care? To start understanding this concept, I'm going to start by defining some of the language you'll often hear associated with the skills and training involved, and that you'll hear throughout this presentation. The first of these terms is husbandry. This is training for the health or well-being of an animal or an individual. It can involve essential care, veterinary or grooming care, and it's used across all animal-related fields, from zoos and aquariums to agriculture to, of course, in our homes. And as humans, we may not ever think about it, but we're also pretty familiar with the concept of husbandry. For example, if you've ever gone to the doctors for a blood draw or a vaccine, you are effectively taught to sit down, hold out your arm, roll up your sleeve, and at least in my case, look the opposite direction. Making those harder things a little bit easier, or at least more predictable, is really, really helpful. And that's what husbandry is all about. The other thing we'll talk about quite a bit is handling. This refers to body handling, so any physical touching, holding, or manipulating of the body. Another phrase you'll hear quite a lot is reinforcement, and this refers to anything the pet finds valuable in that moment. And reinforcement can change from this moment to that moment. So treats might be valuable now, but they may not be valuable in a few minutes. Same with toys, affection, praise, taking a break, etc. Other terms that you'll hear are force or fear-free, and this refers to handling or training methods that are used to reduce fear, anxiety, and stress. They require a strong understanding of animal body language, and they encourage voluntary behavior or giving animals choices. On that note, choice, which we'll dig into later, allows the animal to choose the type of reinforcement they need to facilitate learning a new skill or performing a particular behavior. So what does cooperative care look like? Well, there are a number of skills that you might use regularly in your home. For example, brushing and grooming, body handling, whether it's just a regular everyday petting or doing wellness checks like feeling the abdomen or checking the ears. It might involve things like putting on collars, harnesses, or leashes, spending time in their crate or a kennel or going into a crate or a kennel, trimming nails, giving medication, and toothbrushing, which is my cat Amethyst, one of her favorite activities.
Okay, Amethyst, do you want to brush your teeth? Good girl. Oh, it's all over your nose. Good girl.
Okay. Other skills that you might need less often, but are still very helpful to practice, are things like car rides, especially if your pet doesn't go in the car very often, whether they have a backyard they spend time in as opposed to a dog park, or whether they're a cat and may not leave the home except for things like vet visits. Car rides are really good to practice. That way, not every ride is a scary ride. You might want to spend time working with less common medical tools like pill guns, ear and eye droppers, wearing those nitrile gloves, working with muzzles, etc. Practice getting into or out of tubs or a sink or anywhere else you might bathe your pet. Sounds they might hear at the groomer, like a Dremel or a hairdryer. And then wearing unfamiliar items like medical collars or clothing. Here's an example of a very quick little training session with Amethyst and an e-collar, which she began playing with as a toy. So here we are.
Amethyst. Can I see your face? Yes. Yes.
And I'll call out her sister, who is sitting beautifully on her training mat, waiting her own turn.
Girl. Yes, good job.
Some skills you're going to use in very specific contexts, like at the vet's office or at the groomer's. These involve things like handling by less familiar people, stepping on or into a scale, being up off the ground, like on the table here, using tools they may never see at home, like stethoscopes and thermometers, sitting still for x-rays or other scans, getting parts of their body shaved, gland expression, and receiving vaccines, IVs, and similar types of injections.
And I'm gonna go ahead and actually take this off so I have more space. All right, so Cindy's gonna give treats while I go ahead and vaccinate. There you go. So we give a couple treats first to kind of distract before we do anything. And then before I go ahead and vaccinate, I'm gonna go ahead and rub the area so that we kind of just don't know what's going on when it hits us. Make a tent. Ready, Cindy?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Giving the vaccine. Aspirating. Rub the area again. Good to go.
Good job.
And that is a 13 or 14-week-old puppy doing a beautiful job. So why is cooperative care so important? Well, from your end, it increases awareness of what to be looking for or tracking in your pet's body, behavior, etc. It increases your likelihood of finding health concerns earlier. And there are so many ways that we can be aware of what's going on. Sometimes you might feel it. If you've ever joined me for classes, you've probably heard me talk about my cat, Love. This is her in the upper right-hand corner. In her case, when she was 16, I found a bump smaller than a dime on the back of her back leg. And after confirming it was not an extra toe, we went to the vet, turned out to be a cyst. And my vet said something I've never forgotten, which was I've known this cat 16 years and I wouldn't have found this. No matter how good your vet is, they never know your pet as well as you do. So get to know your pet, know what bumps and whatever else has always been there, and know what's new and what's changing. Sometimes you hear what's going on. In the case of my cat, Ginny, who is below her, I noticed her meow became a little bit breathier. And what that was a very early indicator of what ended up being a severe fungal infection that was compressing her lungs. Sometimes you see it. Sometimes your pet's coat gets duller or drier or more flaky or more oily. You might see it in their behavior. Maybe they're limping or they're favoring a limb or they're just kind of acting a bit differently. Sometimes you smell it. Maybe their ears smell yeasty. Maybe their poop smells really bad. You'll notice things. Their breath might get really bad. So really pay attention to all of those different ways you can be tracking your pet's health. Doing this increases our opportunities to be proactive. It allows you to train behaviors before you need to them. We'll come back to that repeatedly throughout this presentation. This hopefully will allow you to seek care earlier, which means it might be less expensive because it might be less invasive. And in many cases, it can increase your pet's quality of life or even increase their lifespan. So Sapphire at the vet, she's more interested in my camera than she is the vet who is doing an exam on her. That's what we want to see, is that comfort in those unfamiliar situations. From our pet's perspective, the unknown is scary. Whether it's new people, places, sensations, or the presence of other stressed and unknown pets, which is significant. Having to do things that are unpleasant can be really overwhelming, especially if you're not feeling well. It's also important to note that for pets, learning occurs based on immediate consequences following their behavior. So rarely does the vet or groomer do anything that makes them feel better within a 5-second window. That means they can't rationalize or connect the dots between a bad tasting medication making them feel better or the discomfort of brushing reducing tangles. It's really hard for them to connect those dots. So how do we make these things easier for our pets? Well, we want to expose them to the skills and the tools that we're going to need in ways that feel good. We want to give them control over the pace of the training, so always letting them set the pace and respecting their boundaries. We want to train proactively so they enjoy the task before they ever have to perform it in a more real-life scenario, like taking medication. And we're going to look at an example of what this looks like. Now, this video comes to us from Sharon and her dog Lucy, who are two of our cooperative care and handling students. And this is a beautiful little video on muzzle training. And I want you to pay a lot of attention to the adorable little tippy tappies with her paws and the crunching sounds. They are well worth it. what did we just see? We saw an enthusiastic learner with strong motivation to perform the behavior. We saw enthusiasm throughout the exercise. We didn't see any increases in stress. We stayed enthusiastic, and it was a short, successful session. We love that. That is your recipe for success with training these behaviors. So let's go ahead. We're going to watch 3 videos that kind of document building a nail trim. And we're going to start with the first one here, some basic body handling. Now, Sapphire and her sister, these are my cats, have been doing body handling since I brought them home at 6.5 weeks. And paw massages are one of their favorites. They will actually fall asleep while I'm massaging their paws. So this is just a game that we play. I'm reaching between her toes. I'm pressing on her paws to make her nails extend. All the things I'll need to do during nail trims. But she's just hanging out, having some fun. So before we go to the next step, let's talk a little bit about the other pieces. When we're building husbandry and cooperative care behaviors, we're going to focus on training small pieces of the goal behavior individually and then putting them all together. The training techniques that we'll use for things like this might be called chaining or shaping, depending on what you are doing. Those are more complex. We're not going to talk about any of these in detail tonight. We can also do something called capturing, where we capture naturally occurring behaviors, like I did here, to use towards our goal behavior. This is my cat Poe showing off his flex.
Flex those beans. Yes, good boy. Poe, flex those beans. Yes.
And as you can see for him, we at that point, a couple of sessions in, had both a hand signal and a verbal cue. From there, you'll introduce the tools you might need, like nail clippers, slowly, and again, always at their pace. And then you put all of those pieces together. Here is Amethyst showing off her nail trim skills.
Hi, baby. Can we trim your nails? What do you think? Good girl. Can I see those toes? Good girl. Yes. Good baby.
Look at how relaxed her body remains. Her pupils remain relaxed.
You want a break? Right here? Well, that's better. What do you think?
That's an example of choice right there. We'll come
Good
back
girl.
to that.
Can you do a couple more? That's good girl. Good girl. Look at how good you are. Good job, Amethyst. My good baby. Oh, look at you flexing those beans. Good girl. Yes. Look at you flexing those beans. Yes, good girl. But I don't want to go too high on that one. Thank you. That's perfect. I don't even touch your toes when you flex them. Can you flex those beans? I don't even see your toes on the camera. Hi, baby. Here. Good girl. Hi. What do you think? Yes, good girl. Oh, big yawn. Good stretch. Can you flex those beans? Good girl. Get that last toe. Can you get that last toe? What do you think? Yes, good girl. Good girl. Can you flex those beans once more? I missed one. I missed one. Good girl. Flex those beans. Yes. Good girl. I missed it. You're at a weird angle. I know, I'm sorry. It's my fault. It's my fault. Yes, good baby. There you are. Perfect. My good girl. Listen to that big purr.
After that, she got a pile of treats, but again, remaining relaxed, remaining comfortable. I wanted to show a full session, which was, I believe, just about 2 minutes. We got all that work done, and she did a really beautiful job. So this video showed a little bit of choice. So let's dig in deeper. What is choice? It's giving an animal control in a training situation as safely as you can, which allows them, or empowers them rather, to use their behavior in the ways they need to in the training session. It provides more insight for us on how we can make our training plans or setup or whatever else more flexible. It helps build trust both with us and with the behaviors themselves. and it increases predictability around a skill, which can actually make your training go faster. So we're going to take a deeper look into this concept. And in the next video, which is by animal trainer and zookeeper Peter Clark, you won't see any domestic pets, and you will see an example of carrier training, but otherwise you won't see necessarily cooperative care style training. Focus on the concept being discussed, and we'll talk about how it applies to cooperative care afterwards. In addition, if you're familiar with body language, take note of how similar stress signaling can be across species. For example, raising a leg rather than lifting a paw, turning away, hesitating, all of those different types of things. And I'll pause this a couple times throughout.
One of the greatest lessons I've learnt from training exotic animals, like this bush stone curlew, a nocturnal bird of Central Australia, is the importance of giving an animal choice. Choice gives control, and control builds confidence in your animal. When you remove as much force from your repertoire as is safe for the animal and the trainer, a whole level of new reinforcers opens up to you, because the animal will always choose what behaviour is most reinforcing to it at the moment.
I want to pause there because that's such a big piece. An animal will always choose what's most reinforcing at the moment. So as you'll see in this clip, what that could mean is working for food. It could also mean taking a break. For some animals, it means seeking affection or some sort of social support. It can mean all different types of things. It might mean grabbing a toy to alleviate some stress. But they'll always show you with their behavior and their body language what they need most in that moment. With cooperative care training, because we're often asking for hard things, that's a really important thing to remember.
Here we're training our bushstone curlew to go into a pet pack. Obviously, eventually the pet pack will have a door on it, but at the moment we know that the most reinforcing thing for him is to actually be able to escape the pet pack should he need to. When he goes in, he'll be given reinforcement of mouse and bugs, all those sorts of food reinforcers that he likes, but we don't want to give him a situation where he feels so threatened because he's going to be locked in the pet pack that he doesn't want to go into the pet pack even for his most favourite kinds of food. Now, at first glance, this can seem pretty counterproductive. We want him to stay in the pet pack and we are letting him come out when he wants to. How does this work? Well, he gets the choice of the reinforcer he wants. Both the food reinforcer and the chance to leave the pet pack reinforce the behaviour of staying in the pet pack. And when we give the animal this choice of which reinforcer they need at any given moment, in a pretty short time, we can't get them out of the pet pack. And this is exactly what we want. We want not only to build a behaviour, but we also want to build a level of confidence and understanding in our animal that we're never going to force them or threaten them in any way. This way we build confidence not only in the behaviour, but also we build the relationship of trust that we so desperately need when we're working free-flight birds and other exotic animals in a zoological situation. Good bird.
A quick call out here. This is a video for trainers. And when, as a trainer, you have a session set up for the day, you have a plan of what you want to accomplish. This clip is an example of when that doesn't go to plan. Some of the phrases she uses won't make a ton of sense if you don't have that information to begin with. So now you do.
The choices that our animals make often can give us as trainers really important information as to how they are feeling about what we are asking them to do at that very moment. Here our leopard seal tells us that she's really feeling a little bit uncomfortable today, which meant that we did not take the steps we had planned to before starting the training session. While she had been going really well and hadn't balked at the transport crate as she did just then in the video for a long time, she did today, and we're all reminded that we all have bad days, even if you're a leopard seal. It's really important to remember that, just like us, animals are constantly forming emotional associations. How an animal feels about what you are asking it to do is going to make things either much harder or much easier.
I want to pause there again. Because cooperative care involves animals that may not be feeling well, doing your training in advance of that can make a huge difference. Because sometimes it's challenging even when you're not giving medication or doing difficult handling. So having to train those things when they are feeling poorly makes a really big difference in how those sessions look, how they go, and what types of reinforcers are available to that animal, because they may not want food. They may not want to be touched. So it's really important to remember that where your pet is at changes from moment to moment, day to day, and their health makes a big difference in how building these types of skills goes.
The foundation of feeling plays a key role in the behaviour both we and our animals perform at any moment. So going back and helping Brooke with a target stick ensured that in the next session we were able to take our previously planned step of closing the door for just a few moments at a time while she remained relaxed and comfortable.
One more clip.
So how do our animals tell us what is most reinforcing in any moment? Body language is key. All animals will orientate towards the point of reinforcement. Watching this video of Jacob Brown, a long-billed corella, that's a type of cockatoo found in Australia, you can clearly see how his body posture and balance of weight changes from the beginning of the video to the end. At the start of the video, he's leaning away. All of his energy is away from the scary skateboard. That's fine. He has control and can choose to work to gain the sunflower seed, one type of reinforcer, or work to increase the distance between him and the skateboard, another kind of reinforcer. But watch as his fear reduces and his feelings about the situation and the scary skateboard change. Slowly but surely, his orientation changes. Where his overall body posture was orientated away from the skateboard at the start, by the end he is not only orientating towards it, he's going to be on it. And his body language is more determined and confident. While animals are not always as obvious as Jacob Brown is here, a good trainer will see the subtle shifts in body weight or the tiny movements of the head and respond accordingly. Being able to read these subtle cues is something that we can all learn by simply spending time observing animals.
Okay, I love that clip. So giving animals choices about how to act with these tools makes such a powerful difference. And hopefully you've already observed some of that in the clips we've watched. As we've said, it increases predictability around the behavior we're asking them to perform, and it improves their resilience if they're having a hard time with the behavior now, or if they've had a hard time with it in the past. So even if your pet does or has had poor experiences with the behavior, we can walk that back and make that easier for them. Additionally, like I mentioned before with choice, it is especially important to give our pets choices when we need to use the training because they aren't feeling well. I mentioned earlier my cat Ginny with the fungal infection. This is an example of one of her training sessions, or actual medication sessions, about 3 months into her illness. And we had not trained any of these behaviors with her prior. She was a young cat. It hadn't been on my mind, and we just hadn't done it yet. So I had to teach her how to take both pills and liquid medication while she wasn't taking food and while she was very uncomfortable. It was a big challenge for both of us. Luckily, we had done a lot of body handling and we did a lot of other work, and we were able to get there. But it took a lot more time and was a lot more stressful than if we had trained it in advance, like I've done with every pet I've had since then. I'm going to show you what this session looks like, and I want to call out a few things before we play it. First of all, because she wasn't interested in food for the first month or so of this training, I found that chin scratches with the pill gun were actually reinforcing for her, as was very gentle handling. There's no restraint here. Very gentle handling and petting was also reinforcing for her. You will hear her growling a little bit to express displeasure. She was a very chatty cat, so grumbling in her specific case, I knew that she was unlikely to escalate beyond that. And one of the first signs that she was getting more upset would be an attempt to escape. But know your cat. If this was not a cat that I knew, I would immediately stop if I heard growling. You'll also see her body remains pretty soft and her eyes remain pretty normal as far as her pupils. The other thing that you'll notice is me saying, "Can you help me?" which is the cue that we use to ask her to lift up her head and open up her mouth.
Good girl. me out? Look at those cheeks. Oh yeah, it's my good girl.
We always started with petting.
On your chin rubbed? No? Okay. Hi, Jenny. Can you help me, my girl? Oh, there they are. There it is. Yeah, it's my good girl. All right, my love. Can you help? You want to tip your head? Good girl. Good job, my girl. Good girl, Jenny. That was perfect, my love. Good girl. Can you help me one more time? Can you help me one more time, my good girl? Come on, my love. Come on, my love. Can you help? There's my girl. There's my girl. Good job, Jenny.
So 3 months in, we could give her medication with snuggles at the beginning and snuggles in between in about 54 seconds, I think, as I went through this video. So we can get there, but it does take a lot of work. So if you can do it in advance, it's much, much easier. And this is just a beautiful example that brings me so much joy of what cooperative care looks like and what buy-in and choice look like when it comes to these behaviors. This video is from Sherry and Hester, who took our Trainable Cat Level 2 class after finishing Level 1. And in between those 2 classes, Hester needed to start getting eye drops. So that was the behavior they wanted to work on in that class. And as you'll see in this video, Hester is calling the shots on when she is getting on her training mat to work and when she's taking a break. And I love the enthusiasm from both of them in this video.
Yeah, let's see if we can do this. Uh-huh. You ready? You ready to do this? Okay.
I'm miming some of the behaviors.
We're gonna put drops in your eyes.
In these first couple reps, she's just miming. She's not actually doing drops for, I believe, the first 2. A little bit too far of a lean back there. Handling takes both people skills and pet skills. There's a lot to be aware of. And these 2 are doing a great job in beautiful recovery, very fast recovery, a little bit of overstimulation there from Hester. They get right back into it. There's a real eye drop there.
No. Yeah. No. 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 No.
It's a little bit louder for you.
Yeah, that's a good girl. She's a good girl. She is. Yeah.
We're taking a quick break.
You okay?
Not quite ready to come back yet. Being invited, but not ready. Still not quite ready, or at least not on the mat. And I love how Sherry is waiting for her to get back on the mat. Tries to guide her, and Hester's like, no. Takes a quick break. Turns around, and there's our buy back in. We're ready to go.
That's a good girl. Yeah, we're gonna do this again. Yes, that's a good girl. She's such a good girl. Yes, she is. Yes, she is a good girl. Yes, she is such a good girl.
I absolutely love these 2. Okay. So another great example comes to us from the San Diego Zoo. These folks do incredible cooperative care training every day, all the time, with, I think, almost all of the animals they have on site. I don't know how much the fish do, but they do a lot of cooperative care across the board. We came up during this training session, and the fennec fox-ear had just hidden the meatball he'd been given prior to the session. He's coming back to the trainer as this video begins. Watch what happens.
Right.
Goes right up, that medication. No questions asked, no hesitation.
Is that meat flavored?
No, I think it is. You want to hide it in there?
And he actually tried to hide it in his carrier, which is what that is. And it was not meat flavored. If you missed that, it was not a specially flavored medication, which is a normally flavored medication. But the training they've done makes the experience so positive that it doesn't matter. He's so happy to come up and take it without any issues. Really, really beautiful training. So all of this leads us from choice into the topic of consent. Now, consent is important for all pets, but especially those with a history of poor experiences related to body handling and grooming and vet experiences and things like that. Asking for consent when beginning to train these behaviors is so critical. Again, it shows respect of your pet's boundaries and comfort levels. It helps build trust, and it will allow your training to ultimately move faster. It's always harder to build things if your pet is uncomfortable with what you're doing or with how you're interacting with them. So you want to build that trust first. It always pays off. In addition, asking for consent and building that trust can result in slower escalation of their behavior if they are becoming uncomfortable, or if your pet already has a history of escalating quickly, rapidly progressing to a swat or a bite or something like that. Asking for consent before you interact can de-escalate how rapidly they move through those behaviors. And that can be huge. I also want to add a quick note here about hugs. A lot of dogs don't love hugs. A lot of animals don't love hugs because we are big and scary. And this is a beautiful example of a dog hug. Rather than putting our bodies over and around theirs, let them lean into you in the way they're most comfortable. This helps avoid unintentional or unintentionally overwhelming and scary interactions become easier, and it reduces the risk that they'll turn dangerous, because that can happen very quickly. So in this next video, we're going to take a look at what asking for consent looks like in interactions. You'll see 3 different cats in these videos, and you'll see how each one communicates that consent and also shows us where and how to interact with them. These types of signals are really important to pay attention to while working to train cooperative care type body handling, because it helps you kind of know what your pet's limits are. And it also can help, again, reduce those bad feelings about past experiences.
Let's ask for some consent. Touching my hand, sniffing it, actively touching his face against it, and then rubbing his cheek. So I've been given permission to touch his cheek. His eyes are closing. Oh, he's giving me his chin. Nice soft eyes. Might get a bit excited about the phone. Other cheek time. So he's showing me where to pet him. I love that. What if I go for the head? You like the head pets? Yeah, our body is still saying yes to that. If I stop, he's like, excuse me, you still have a job to do. Keep petting. Good boy, more permission to pet. That's also how I know he didn't mind the head pets. Aside from not moving away, he, allowed me to come back and pet more. Tilting his head back is one of the ways that he'll show he enjoys those head pets. Sometimes it's an invitation to go down his back. And if I do, lifting his tail a bit, but not too much, not like he was before. And there you go. He was like, no, don't love it. Okay, that was great. So a moment ago, I was petting him and I went towards his tail when prompted down his back. And he lifted it way high into the elevator booty and was digging those tail scratches. When I finished the tail scratches, he shook it off. And when I went back that time, he kind of raised his booty a little bit, but not too much. And you can see he was like, no, I'm really not interested. And because I didn't respond to that disinterest quickly enough, he escalated a little bit more. Now, he was very gentle. There was no contact made. His paws were soft as he reached towards my hand. But that's an example of what cats want and what they don't. Rubbing her head against me. And if I put my hand out, she rubs her head against it. Redirecting me. Don't rub down my back, just rub my face. Okay. I can do that. And now, if I just keep my hand still, she dragged her body under it. Hold my hand out here, see who comes over. Invited to pet the head, and the ears, underneath my arm to get pet. And they're invited again. My hand stayed still for that. Okay. Offer a hand. She put her head under it, leaning into it. My hand is staying still. She's directing all that motion. And again, this cat comes over, has control of all that motion. My hand is staying stationary. I'm going to do the tail for her. Now in my lap. So the petting we're doing is working. We're enjoying it. Oh, we're eating my braids. Here we go. Good job.
Okay. So let's talk about reducing bad feelings when it comes to cooperative care. Introduce a few more terms here, the first of which is desensitization. This means to make an animal less sensitive to something in their environment, sounds, smells, touches, tastes, whatever it might be, anything they can perceive. We're making them less sensitive to that thing. So for example, less fearful. Counter-conditioning means we're changing how they feel about something, ideally something bad to something good. It can go both directions, so you do want to be careful. If you're going too quickly, for example, with your training, if you're introducing a high value reward but a really difficult ask or too much, too intense handling, your pet might say, wow, that really good treat now means something bad is about to happen. So you can counter condition in both directions. It's so important to move at your pet's pace. But ideally, we're going from bad feelings to good feelings. And when we combine these two techniques, we call this very systematic process, which is made up of incremental, tiny little steps, DSCC, or desensitization and counter conditioning. So sometimes we'll focus on using DSCC to change the way our pet feels about a tool, like nail clippers, very common one there. A lot of pets have big feelings about it. But we can also be creative and train an entirely new way to work with that behavior and achieve the same goals. So this is a great little video from a local trainer, Anita Shack-Cheeseman. And this is her dog, Violet. This is their second training session with a scratch board for nail trims. And she began scratching on her own with no prompting during their first training session. And their next steps from here will be to work on scratching using a bit more pressure on the board to have a bit more impact. And I want you to notice the element of choice is absolutely at play here. Violet is choosing when to engage with the board and how many times to scratch on it.
Yep.
Love that. Other ways that we can be creative to reduce those bad feelings, we can turn cooperative care training into a game. You can pair it with really special high-value rewards, as long as, again, you're moving at your pet's pace. And you can integrate it into your usual training routine. Amethyst and I both brush our teeth every morning, for example. In essence, it can all be fun and games, even when we have to take our medicine.
Some games? You do? My goodness, let's do it. To me, yes. Great job. I'll let you chew. May I have your paw? No, I don't need both. I just need one. May I have one paw? Thank you so much. Can I have the other one, please? Thank you. Yes. This is excellent. We use this to wash your paws. Yes, we do. Did it today, huh? To me? Yes. 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 Great. Great work. Great work. Do you want to do both paws now? I bet you do. Wait. 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 Both paws. Yes. Good job. Here you go. Take your medicine.
Take your
You gotta
medicine.
take it, though. I know you don't like it. Go ahead. Come on. Good job. All the way. Did you get it? Did you get it? Oh, you did. Okay, great. Here you go. Good job. Can you come up? Excellent work.
So a couple call outs for that video. The first of which is they are using carrots. This dog has a super sensitive tummy. So carrots are a high value reward for her. She is obsessed with them. In addition, she had to take a pill in that video and they can't put anything on it because her tummy is so sensitive. So she has to be able to take that medication straight. So working it into a game like this worked really well for them. And paw handling has also historically been a challenge for her. So working in, give a paw type behaviors is also a cooperative care skill for this family. And working in those hand touches is a really fun, really easy, always going to get it right behavior that she very much enjoys. to make those things that are a little bit more challenging, a little bit more fun. So love the way they put that all together. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about resources. We have so many resources for you. So there's a whole bunch of short links up at the top here that will get you to the places you need to be. sdhumane.org/training brings you to our main behavior and training services landing page where you'll find all of the things. And then training videos brings you to our video libraries. Training articles brings you to our article libraries. In our video and article libraries, we have an entire YouTube playlist devoted to body handling for grooming and medical husbandry. We have several articles about this topic as well. We have articles and videos about body handling and reading stress signals and just reading behavior in general. So lots and lots of resources for you, and they're always being updated. A good thing to keep in mind with any resource that you're seeing from us is even if it shows or features one type of pet, the information is applicable to all of them. So don't be deterred if it's a dog video, a bird video, a cat video, etc. You can use it on any pets that you have at home, as long as you make appropriate tweaks for the type of pet you have. Another wonderful resource we have are the well-socialized pet chats. These are free Zoom chats. They're 30 minutes long. They're every Sunday with me. And we rotate through 6 different topics about socialization, including one on conditioning, body handling, and husbandry. Each one is followed up by an email with a whole bunch of resources, and they are appropriate for all pets of all ages, and there's no limits on attendance. So hopefully we will see you at one of those. And there's also an associated playlist with all of those resources as well. In addition, all of our core and foundational training classes, from puppy preschool and kitten kindergarten into the adult training classes for dogs and cats, all of them introduce at least basic body handling concepts. And if you're not local to San Diego, many of these are also offered online, either live or coming soon, spoiler alert, on demand. We also offer a very cool 6-week cooperative care and handling specialty class taught by Kelly Viscosi, featured here on the left with her dog Bean. They are practicing a chin rest and giving topical flea medication. It is a class that's taught on Zoom. So again, you don't have to be local. It's recorded live each week, and it is appropriate for both dogs and cats. She has both and will demo with both during the class as appropriate. You can always check our website for our schedule. You'll find that at sdhumane.org/training classes. And if you are watching this live, our next upcoming cooperative care class will actually be this month, Friday, 28th. Wow. Friday, February 28th. There we are, at 6 p.m. 2025 Pacific time. So if you are looking for a fear-free professional, whether it's a veterinarian, groomer, or a trainer, there are a couple places you can go to find those, one of which is the fearfreepets.com directory. Now, a couple things that are important to note. There is a difference between a fear-free practice and a fear-free professional. A fear-free practice means that 75% of the staff at minimum are fear-free certified. And this can be difficult to maintain with things like staff turnover. So those can be a bit further and fewer between and harder to find. However, there are a large number of fear-free professionals out there. And these are folks who are certified individually. So again, it could be a vet, a trainer, or a groomer. They may work at a facility that is not fear-free certified, but you may have several folks on the staff who are. And this will be a lot easier, again, to find folks that are located near you. All right, that is going to wrap up the majority of what I have to share with you tonight. Thank you again so much for joining me. We are so passionate about this topic. And again, hopefully you are feeling some of that cooperative care enthusiasm as well. If you have any questions about what types of training or classes are appropriate for you and your pet, reach out to us. You can have our class line is right there for questions about classes specifically. And again, sthumane.org/training has all of the behavior resources that my team puts out there. We've got something for you no matter what that is. Thank you all again so much, and I'll go ahead and open it up for questions.
So feel free to unmute or pop your question into the chat, everybody.
Go for it, Marilyn. Yeah.
I have two cats that I got fairly recently that were not trained to be trusting when they were young. And so I've sort of let them do their own thing and work at their own speed. But I have a cat scratcher that stands up, and they tore off the entire top half of it. And I bought them two more cat scratchers, one flat, one stands up like the first one. They don't want to go near either of those. And I rubbed um, whatever it is,
Catnip?
catnip on it, and I've put their paws on it gently, and I've tried everything. I can't get them to do anything, and they're scratching the wood on the old one. Because how do I get them to use a new cat scratcher?
Oh, that's a good question. So what you can do if you aren't handy, you find someone who is, but you can go to like a Home Depot and get some of the jute rope, and you can oh good, other folks are having the same problem. You can rewrap where that rope was. I'm assuming it was a rope scratcher, and just get some hot glue and some rope and just rewrap it. So that's probably the easiest way if they're super particular about that scratcher. Um, they're not scratching it even when you're not there, right? It's not because they're more fearful.
No, they don't scratch furniture. They've been good about that. And I tried the cardboard scratcher. I tried one like the one they had. I saved some of the rope off the one they tore up, wrapped it around the new one, thinking they might like that. Not interested.
Where are the new ones located? Because
I put
location can make a big
I
difference.
put them right next to each other for a month,
What's
and
the height difference?
it didn't work. So I put one in the bedroom. I've got one in the living room, one in the hallway,
Yeah.
and they're scratching wood now.
Okay. So I would try wrapping new rope around it.
Okay.
Um, they can be so particular about textures and locations and like the scent marking they're probably doing with the scratching. So there's a lot of pieces that can go into that. But I would start by rewrapping it with some new ropes since they're really particular about whatever it is in that location. Start there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Kim has a great question about differences in training an older cat. Yes, the main differences in training an older cat is they have more experience, right? They've been to the vet, they've done the thing, they probably have feelings about it. So you're going to probably want to go more slowly. The way that you train things might look a little bit different. So I didn't use any of his videos in this presentation, but I lived with a cat for a while who had a very, very strong history of not enjoying being touched or handled. He would immediately, like within two pets, escalate to an attempted bite and swat. So for him, we had to kind of like de-escalate that behavior using consent work to kind of show him like we're going to respect your boundaries just like we let me touch you, and then building from there. So any cat, I'm going to segue a little bit. Any cat who has a history of poor experiences, or any cat who's experiencing fear around handling or being touched or being approached, you want to do work to reduce that escalation and reduce that fear, honestly, as soon as you can, right? Because we don't want that to be their life if we can help it. So like either the shy cat class addresses the fear, trainable cat 1 can introduce some de-escalation techniques. But we want to address those behaviors because if we do have to give medication, we do have to handle our cats, we do have to go to the vet. Having a cat where those things are already extremely difficult out the gate makes follow-up really, really tough to do and really stressful for both of you. So you want to be really aware of that. But you can take an older cat who has experience with these things and turn that around. That same cat I mentioned, within 3 sessions, and again, they were all short. The longest one I think was 10 minutes, and that was a long session for him. Within 3 sessions, I could voluntarily trim 3 nails. If he was like laying down and I could reach his paws, I could do very little touching. But as long as I just did like 1 toe at a time, I could like touch and clip, and he would let me do that. So you can make progress quickly if you're using these tools. And then I have a long-haired cat who has had some poop stuck to her butt. Yes. Have you heard of shaving around the butt? Yes. Can get them using some of the clippers. Yeah, yeah. So if I give her a choice, I'll never choose to stick around for a haircut. I hear you on that. So what I would do is if you don't have clippers, try and find a sound clip on YouTube or go to the groomers and say, hey, can I just record you turning on the clippers you might use for this on my cell phone? Play that sound at very, very low volume and slow and like give your cat high value treats while they're hearing it. Maybe not hearing it behind them initially, maybe just hearing it in front of them and then moving it like around their body so they're hearing it behind them and not spooking. A lot of steps to this. To refer back to the well-socialized pet chats, the second topic we cover is desensitizing to sound. So all of these things play together. And yes, so I would start there. Get them used to the sounds first, and then play the sounds in different areas of the body and go from there. And these are all very abbreviated overviews of what this training might look like, just for reference. Any other questions? These are great. Thank you all. So the question is, I noticed you did not restrain the cat while grooming. Is this preferred to leaning over a cat for grooming? That is a great question, Pamela. So yes, when at all possible, if I'm working with an animal, I want to be alongside them as opposed to directly facing them or being over their bodies. If you were my cat or my dog and I was handling, I would want to be like working with you from the side because it's less social pressure. So it can make things easier. So like with Amethyst, she was laying on the couch and I was kind of like adjacent to her. If I'm directly facing you, that can be a lot of pressure. And animals don't always have great like forward vision, so that can be harder for them to really see what you're doing as well. And then when it comes to being over an animal, we're big. You know, even kids are big compared to a pet. We're taller, we're bulkier. So being over them is really stressful. So if you with most pets, whether they're your pets or someone else's pets, if you lean over them or reach over them to pet them, very often they'll kind of do one of these, or where are you going? What are you doing? Don't eat me. So if I can reduce the don't eat me feeling by not leaning or reaching over them as much as possible, that can make a big difference. I can also practice those behaviors. So for example, if I'm working on, getting my pet to allow me to like put a harness around them, right? I have to reach around them in that hugging sensation so I get the harness clipped, or reach under their bellies, to do that harness clip. So I can practice like I'm holding a treat and I'm just doing this with my arm, or I'm doing that with my arm, and kind of like getting you used to that sensation. And then kind of building it together. So there's a lot of different pieces that can come into play, and we can get our pet comfortable with most of them as long as we're introducing it in a way that is either slow enough that they're cool with it, or broken down into smaller pieces so it's less initially overwhelming. Does that make some sense? Additionally, another good tip is if you do have to lean over to do something, you can start leaning over and then invite them to walk under your arm or underneath wherever you're leaning. So if you need them in a position, you can always put yourself there and then invite them in. If they choose to close that gap, that's different. So again, like the way you set up your training session and your environment can make a big, big difference for your pet. And then a quick note, we have YouTube playlists, as we mentioned, all about cooperative care. We also have one that has all of these chats that have been recorded. So if there was a topic that you would love to learn more about, go ahead and check out that playlist and see if we've already covered it. And if there's a topic you haven't seen on there that you do want to hear about, respond to the email and let us know, because we are always looking to provide more resources that you all want and need. Otherwise, thank you again for joining us.